everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Group Chat Family Edition, a podcast designed to help families have meaningful conversations about faith at home. I'm Brett, and I'm so glad you're here this week. Whether you're driving to practice, sitting around the dinner table, or winding down for the night, this podcast is all about giving you the tools to talk about Jesus in everyday life. Each week, we'll explore a big truth from Scripture, unpack what it means for your family, and give you questions and ideas to spark real conversations with your students at home. So this week's big truth from Sunday Morning Small Group is no one is outside of God's reach. So let's dive into our story. So Jonah's story reminds us that God's mercy isn't just for people we like or agree with. It's for everyone, even those that we might think are too far gone. In Jonah chapter 3, the entire city of Nineveh repents after Jonah's short sermon. In Jonah 4, Jonah is absolutely angry, but God reminds him that his compassion is for everyone. It's for all people. So the Christ connection that we pull from that is Jonah obeyed reluctantly, but Jesus obeyed joyfully, even when it meant loving his enemies and dying for all of us on the cross. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 2 reminds us that Jesus endured the cross for the joy set before him. Y'all, that joy was us. So some questions that you guys can talk about this week with your student is, why was Jonah mad when God forgave Nineveh? Can you think of someone who seems too far gone? How can we be a family that shows God's mercy each and every day? Now, moving to Wednesday night, for our high schoolers this week, we're going to be in 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 1 through 11, learning to live with unshaken purpose, faithfully and urgently using every moment to honor Christ. Peter reminds us here to turn from sin, love deeply, pray clearly, and use our gifts to serve others, all for God's glory. Even when others don't understand, we live not for today, but for eternity. Unshaken purpose means choosing holiness over hype, service over selfishness, and eternity over temporary thrills. Now, let's move across the hall to our middle schoolers. Middle schoolers feel everything. That's why we're starting a new series called You Are Constant, focused on emotions and the truth that Jesus never changes. This week's emotion is anxiety. In Philippians 4, Paul reminds us to bring our anxiety to God through prayer and receive his peace. We're practicing prayers of release, naming what's heavy and handing it to God. And this series is inspired by the song Constant by Maverick City Music. So give it a listen. It's a beautiful reminder that God is always steady. So let me give you a couple quick announcements for this week. One, Wednesday night resumes this week. So we had last week off for fall break. We're back this Wednesday night in the student building beginning at 6:20. Missions Experience Preview, October 19th, 12:30 to 2. We're going to have our Mission Experience Preview for both parents and students here in the Student Center. Lunch will be provided, but we do ask that you RSVP by October the 16th. And then last announcement, on October the 29th, during our regular Wednesday night activities for middle school and high school, we will be hosting a bonfire in the back lot behind the Student Center. So students come, bring your friends, and we'll have a great night. So thank you guys so much for joining today's episode of Group Chat Family Edition. Keep the conversations going and keep pointing your family to Jesus. We'll catch you next time.